How many nights have you laid in bed with your eyes wide open, thoughts racing through your mind, feeling the weight of tomorrow before tomorrow even comes? How many times have you felt your chest tighten because of something that might never even happen? Worry is like a thief that sneaks into your life when the world is quiet, when you're alone with your thoughts, and it robs you of the peace you should be living in right now. Deep inside, every person knows this truth. Most of the things we worry about never even come to pass. Yet we keep feeding this enemy inside our mind, and slowly it eats away at our strength. You see, worry is not just an emotion. It is a habit, a mental loop, a pattern that convinces your brain you are in danger even when you are not. Psychologists say that when you worry, your mind reacts the same way as if you were standing in front of a real threat. Your body releases stress hormones. Your heartbeat rises. Your muscles tense. Your mind cannot tell the difference between a danger that is real and a danger that is imagined. That's why worry feels so heavy. It is not just thinking too much. It is your body fighting an invisible war that never ends. The cruel part is this: worry promises you safety. Your mind whispers, if you keep thinking about it, you'll find a way to prevent it. If you keep rehearsing the future in your head, you'll stay in control. But the opposite is true. The more you think, the more you lose control. The more you try to predict tomorrow, the more today slips through your fingers. And every hour spent in fear is an hour stolen from your happiness, your health, your life. Pause for a moment and think about this. How many opportunities have you missed because you were afraid of what could go wrong? How many joyful moments have you ignored because your mind was chained to something you couldn't control? The truth is, worry is not protecting you. It is paralyzing you. It is making you live in a future that hasn't even arrived, while your present slowly passes you by. And when you finally get to that moment you feared so much, you often realize it was never as terrible as your imagination made it. But by then, the damage is already done because worry has already stolen your peace, your sleep, your confidence. But let me tell you something powerful. If you are willing to stay with me, if you are willing to listen all the way through, you will find a key that unlocks the heavy door of fear and lets you walk free. Because there is a truth that can change how you live. A truth that can take away that restless heart, that racing mind, and replace it with peace, with strength, with the kind of courage that no storm can take away. Imagine what it would feel like to stop living in fear of what if, and start living in the freedom of what will be. Imagine waking up and not feeling that knot in your stomach, but instead feeling light, confident, secure. That is the reward for listening, for staying, for allowing your heart to be open. When you look closely at human behavior, you'll see that every single person has the same deep need. We all want certainty. We want to know that everything will be okay. That's why our brains cling to worry, because it feels like planning. It feels like protection. But here's the catch. Life was never meant to be certain. You were not created to know every step before you take it. You were created to walk forward with faith. And this is where the real power lies. When you learn to let go of the illusion of control and trust in something greater, you unlock a strength inside yourself that no amount of worry could ever give you. This is why some people seem unshaken by storms. It's not because they don't feel fear. It's not because their lives are perfect. It's because they've learned the secret. Worry doesn't add anything to your life. It doesn't solve tomorrow. It doesn't heal your problems. All it does is steal your energy for the battles you actually have to face. They've learned to let go. They've learned to trust. And that's why they are at peace, even when life feels uncertain. You see, the mind is like soil. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you plant fear, you will harvest anxiety. If you plant doubt, you will harvest weakness. But if you plant belief, if you plant trust, if you plant the courage to let go, you will harvest peace. You will harvest strength. You will harvest joy. That's not just inspiration. That's psychology. Your brain responds to the thoughts you feed it, and it will create the reality you expect. So if you are feeding yourself with worry, your body will believe danger is everywhere. But if you feed yourself with faith, your mind will calm down, your heart will slow down, and you will begin to feel safe even when the world is uncertain. So let me ask you again, how long will you keep letting worry run your life? How many more nights will you give away to fear? How many more days will you live as if you are powerless? You don't have to. You can make a different choice. And the moment you do, everything begins to change. The weight begins to lift. Chains begin to break. Because you were never created to carry the entire burden of life on your shoulders. And the beautiful part is this: you don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to know every answer. You don't have to control every outcome. You only have to take the first step, the step of letting go of the fear, letting go of the endless worry, and opening your heart to something greater. That is where the real transformation begins. That is where freedom lives. And that is where peace finally enters your life. Would you like me to now continue and write the script for the next section, the weight of worry, in the same deep motivational style? Worry is like carrying a backpack filled with stones. Each thought, each fear, each doubt adds another stone to the load, and before long you can barely stand. The mind tricks you into believing that by holding on, by carrying all these heavy thoughts, you are somehow keeping yourself safe. But the truth is, you are only exhausting yourself. Worry doesn't prepare you for life. It only drains the life out of you. Day by day, it steals your energy, it weakens your focus, it takes away the joy that should be yours. Psychology shows that worry works in cycles. You feel uncertain. Your brain tries to imagine every possible outcome, and the more you think, the more problems your mind invents. Soon you are no longer dealing with reality, you are dealing with 100 different versions of what if. None of them have even happened, but your body reacts as if they already have. That is why worry is so destructive. It convinces you that danger is around every corner, and in the process, it blinds you from seeing the opportunities and blessings right in front of you. Think about how many times you've looked back and realized you wasted precious days over things that never came true. You worried about a conversation, but when it happened, it wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined. You worried about the future, but it turned out differently than you expected. Yet in those moments of worry, it felt real. The fear was alive, the stress was real, the weight was heavy. That is what worry does. It robs today to pay for a future that may never come. And here is the danger. When worry becomes a habit, it shapes your identity. You begin to see yourself as fragile, anxious, weak. But you were never made to live like that. Deep inside, you are stronger than you know. The weight of worry does not define you, it only distracts you from who you truly are. The moment you recognize this truth, the moment you see worry for what it really is, an enemy, not a protector, you begin to take your power back, because you were not created to live under the weight of fear. You were created to rise above it. Do you want me to continue with the next section about the human need for control in the same flow and style? One of the deepest reasons we worry is because we want control. Human beings are wired to search for certainty, to know what will happen, to feel like life is in their hands. Control gives the illusion of safety. When you think you are in control, you believe you can prevent pain, avoid mistakes, and protect yourself from disappointment. But that desire for control is exactly what fuels anxiety. The more you try to control everything around you, the more you realize how little control you actually have, and that realization creates even more fear. Psychologists have found that the brain craves predictability. When life feels uncertain, the brain goes into overdrive, running endless scenarios to prepare for every outcome. It's like a computer that never shuts down, constantly processing, constantly predicting. The problem is that life will never give you perfect predictability. People will surprise you, circumstances will shift, and the future will always hold unknowns. No matter how much you plan, no matter how much you think ahead, there will always be moments beyond your grasp. This is why people who cling the tightest to control often feel the most anxious. They are fighting a battle they cannot win. Every time something slips out of place, they panic, because their sense of safety is tied to a world that never stops changing. And here lies the truth. Control is not freedom, it is a prison. It locks you inside constant vigilance, constant tension, constant worry about losing what you never truly held in the first place. But freedom begins when you accept that control is limited. When you release the need to orchestrate every detail, you give yourself permission to breathe. You stop trying to carry the universe on your shoulders and start living in the moment you are given. This does not mean you stop caring or stop trying. It means you stop tormenting yourself with the impossible task of managing everything. The need for control is heavy, but the courage to let go is light. And once you choose that path, peace begins to replace fear, and strength begins to replace anxiety. Would you like me to now move forward with the next section about the truth? We can control everything, written in the same motivational and psychological flow. The truth is simple but hard to accept. We can't control everything, no matter how much effort we put in. Life will always have pieces beyond our reach. You cannot control the weather, yet it can change your plans in an instant. You cannot control the decisions of others, yet their choices can affect your path. You cannot control time, yet it moves forward whether you are ready or not. And still, we fight against this reality, as if our strength could bend the world into our will. But the more we resist, the more exhausted we become. Think about how many sleepless nights have come from trying to manage the unmanageable. You replay conversations in your head. You imagine endless scenarios. You try to prepare for outcomes that you will never fully control. All of that effort drains you, but it does not change the truth. The truth is that life has a rhythm, and much of it will unfold outside of your command. That can feel frightening, but it can also be freeing, because it means you are not required to carry everything on your own. Psychology teaches us that when we fight against uncertainty, we increase stress and fear. But when we acknowledge it, when we face it with acceptance, our minds begin to calm. Acceptance is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is understanding that control has limits, and within those limits lies your real power. You can control your choices, your attitude, your response, but the rest belongs to forces greater than you. And the moment you embrace this, you stop wasting energy on what you cannot change and start focusing on what you can. The peace you are searching for does not come from controlling every detail of life. It comes from learning to release what is beyond you and trust that you are strong enough to handle what comes. The sooner you let go of the impossible task of controlling everything, the sooner you step into freedom. Because life is not about mastering the storm, it is about learning to stand tall in the rain, knowing you will be carried through. Do you want me to continue with the next section on letting God handle it, keeping the same deep motivational and psychology-driven style? When you finally understand that you cannot control everything, the next step is learning to let go and let God handle it. This is where real strength begins. The human mind was never designed to carry the weight of every problem, every fear, every unknown. That weight is far too heavy, and that is why so many people feel tired, anxious, and broken. They are trying to fight battles that were never theirs to fight. Letting go is not giving up. It is choosing peace over pressure. It is choosing faith over fear. Psychologists explain that when a person surrenders what they cannot control, their body physically responds with less stress, lower blood pressure, calmer thoughts. Surrender creates relief. It tells your mind, I don't have to hold this anymore. And that single choice rewires how you experience life. Instead of feeling trapped by problems, you begin to feel guided through them. Instead of being crushed by fear, you begin to rise with courage. Letting God handle it means trusting that there is a greater hand shaping your life, even when you cannot see the full picture. It means believing that every closed door, every delay, every challenge is not the end, but part of a larger plan that works for your good. Worrying doesn't add a single day to your life, but trust adds strength to every day you live. The moment you release your grip on what you cannot change, you make room for peace to enter. You make space for solutions you never imagined. And here is the powerful truth. Surrender is not weakness. It is power. It takes courage to admit, this is too heavy for me alone. It takes strength to say, I will trust instead of fear. And when you live this way, you no longer wake up carrying yesterday's burdens into today. You start to live lighter, freer, stronger, because when you let God handle it, you are no longer fighting life. You are flowing with it. You are no longer bound by fear. You are carried by faith. And that is where peace begins to live inside you. Shall I move forward and continue with the next section on what belief really means, keeping the same motivational depth and psychological flow? Belief is more than a word you say or a thought you keep. Belief is an action of the heart. It is the choice to trust even when your eyes cannot see the answer. Many people confuse belief with simple hope, but they are not the same. Hope is wanting things to work out. Belief is knowing deep inside that somehow they will. Belief is the power that steadies you when everything around you feels uncertain. It is the quiet voice inside that says, I may not have control, but I am not alone. I may not know the future, but the future is held in safe hands. From a psychological view, belief shapes the mind in ways worry never can. When you truly believe, your brain releases signals that create calm, focus, and resilience. You begin to see possibilities instead of only problems. You begin to take steps forward instead of being paralyzed by fear. Belief gives you strength you didn't know you had because it aligns your thoughts with courage, not panic. It rewires your mind to expect goodness, to look for solutions, to rise instead of collapse. Think about how many times in your life you've faced challenges that looked impossible. Yet somehow you made it through at the time you didn't see the path clearly, but you kept moving. That is belief in action. It's not pretending life is perfect, it's choosing to stand tall when life is uncertain. Belief is the anchor that keeps you steady when the storm hits, and it is also the wings that help you rise above it. This kind of belief does not mean you will never feel fear again. It means fear will not own you. It means when fear knocks, belief answers louder. It means when your mind says impossible, your heart whispers, keep going. And that is the kind of belief that changes everything. It changes how you think, how you feel, and how you live. Because when you choose belief over worry, you stop being a prisoner of fear and start living as someone who knows peace, no matter what tomorrow holds. Do you want me to continue with the next section on the battle between fear and faith, written in the same deep motivational and psychology-driven style? Every person walks daily between two powerful forces, fear and faith. Fear is loud, demanding, and filled with worst-case scenarios. It paints pictures of failure in your mind, convincing you that the future holds nothing but danger. Fear is imagination working against you, taking your creativity and turning it into a weapon that wounds your own heart. Faith, on the other hand, is quieter, calmer, yet infinitely stronger. Faith takes the same imagination and uses it to create visions of possibility, courage, and hope. Where fear says you can't, faith whispers you will. Psychologists say the brain is wired to focus on threats first, which is why fear feels so natural. It is the mind's way of trying to protect you from harm. But what protects you in a real emergency becomes poison when applied to everyday life. Fear magnifies shadows, turning small problems into giants. It tells you to stay where you are, to avoid risk, to play it safe. And the longer you listen, the more your life shrinks. Faith works in the opposite direction. Faith expands your vision, helps you take bold steps, and reminds you that life is bigger than your fears. The battle between fear and faith is not fought outside of you, it is fought within your thoughts. Every day, your mind is presented with two voices, one pulling you back, the other pushing you forward. The one that wins is the one you feed. If you feed fear with constant worry, doubt, and negativity, it grows stronger. If you feed faith with belief, trust, and courage, it begins to rise and carry you. And here is the truth. You cannot silence both, but you can choose which one to listen to. Fear will always show you everything you stand to lose. Faith will always show you everything you stand to gain. And life changes the moment you decide which one will guide your steps. Because fear may feel powerful, but it is only an illusion. Faith is real. Faith transforms your mind, lifts your spirit, and gives you the strength to walk into tomorrow with peace in your heart. Shall I now move forward with the next section on the timeless message of wisdom about trusting God fully, in the same deep motivational flow? The wisdom that has carried people through centuries is simple yet powerful. Trust God fully. Trust is not half-hearted, it is not conditional, and it is not temporary. Trust means placing the weight of your worries into hands stronger than yours and believing that you will be carried even when you cannot see the path ahead. Life has always been uncertain. Every generation has faced storms, loss, and trials. Yet those who found peace were not the ones who had every answer. They were the ones who learned to trust beyond their own strength. When you hold on tightly to fear, your world feels small and every problem feels like the end. But when you trust, you begin to see differently. You realize that closed doors are not punishments, but redirections. Delays are not denials, but preparation. Struggles are not the end, but the shaping of your strength. Trusting God fully means believing that nothing in your life is wasted, not even the pain. Every season, every challenge, every tear carries purpose, even when it's hidden from your sight. Psychologists confirm that people who live with trust and faith experience greater resilience. Their minds recover faster from stress, their bodies respond better to adversity, and their outlook remains more hopeful. This is because trust quiets the nervous system, reduces the grip of anxiety, and gives space for peace to grow. It is not blind optimism. It is the most practical way to live a healthy and strong life. And here lies the truth. You cannot trust halfway. Either you are carrying the weight, or you are releasing it. Either you are living in fear, or you are living in faith. The fullness of trust comes when you stop holding back, when you no longer cling to the illusion of control, and when you finally say, "This is not mine to carry anymore." That is where real freedom begins. That is where the mind finds peace. And that is where your spirit learns to rise above the storm, not by your own power, but by leaning on the one who holds the power of tomorrow. Do you want me to continue with the next section on why you must stop worrying now, in the same deep motivational and psychology-backed tone? Worry steals more than your peace. It steals your time, your energy, and your potential. Every hour spent imagining the worst-case scenario is an hour you can never get back. Every sleepless night spent rehearsing what might happen is a night your body and mind will struggle to recover from. Worry does not prevent problems. It only magnifies them. It convinces you that you are powerless, that life is against you, and that tomorrow cannot be trusted. But the reality is the opposite. Your life is not controlled by fear, and your tomorrow is not determined by what you imagine today. The danger of worry is that it creates a false sense of urgency. Your mind treats imagined problems as real threats, and your body reacts accordingly. Stress hormones flood your system, your muscles tighten, your focus narrows, and your heart races. In that state, it becomes impossible to think clearly or make decisions wisely. The more you feed worry, the more it grows, until it feels as though it is controlling you. But the truth is, worry only has the power you give it. The moment you stop giving it your attention, the moment you refuse to live in the shadows of what might happen, you reclaim your strength. Psychology teaches that the mind cannot focus on two things at once. If you occupy it with fear, there is no space for faith, hope, or creativity. If you allow worry to dominate, your ability to act, to create, to enjoy life is blocked. Every problem seems bigger, every challenge seems harder, and every day feels heavier. But the moment you choose trust over fear, the mind begins to lighten. The weight lifts and clarity emerges. You start seeing solutions instead of obstacles. You start feeling courage instead of anxiety. The most urgent reason to stop worrying now is simple. Life is too short to live in fear. You cannot change the past, and the future is not yet yours to control. But today, this moment, is yours to live fully, to act boldly, to experience joy. Worry steals that moment. Trust restores it. By letting go of fear and surrendering what you cannot control, you open the door to freedom, peace, and strength that worry can never take away. Every day spent in fear is a day wasted. Every day spent in faith is a day lived as it was meant to be. Shall I continue with the next section on the transformation of surrender, keeping the same deep motivational and psychologically driven style? The moment you surrender, everything begins to change. Surrender does not mean weakness or giving up. It means releasing the burden you were never meant to carry and allowing peace to take its place. When you stop trying to control every outcome, every reaction, every detail, you create space for strength to grow inside you. The mind that was once clouded with fear begins to clear. The heart that was heavy with anxiety begins to feel light. And the spirit that was tired from carrying too much begins to rise. Surrender is transformative because it shifts your focus from what you cannot change to what you can. You cannot control the past. You cannot control other people, and you cannot predict every twist in your journey, but you can choose how to respond. You can choose courage over fear, trust over doubt, and action over paralysis. That choice alone changes the course of your life. It rewires your brain to focus on solutions rather than problems, on growth rather than setbacks, on hope rather than despair. Psychologists explain that letting go of control and fear reduces stress hormones, strengthens emotional resilience, and improves overall mental health. When you surrender, your body and mind stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You conserve energy, you gain clarity, and you open the door to creative solutions that were invisible when you were consumed by worry. Surrender is not giving up on life. It is stepping fully into it, fully aware that you are supported, capable, and guided. Think about the life you could have if you stopped trying to hold everything together on your own. The sleepless nights, the constant tension, the relentless thoughts, they begin to fade. In their place comes peace, confidence, and freedom. You begin to move forward with less fear and more faith. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles, and you begin to feel a sense of strength that is not born from control, but from trust. Because when you surrender, you are no longer weighed down by what you cannot change. You are lifted by the courage to let go, the wisdom to trust, and the faith that life will carry you forward. Do you want me to continue with the next section on what belief really means? Maintaining the same deep motivational and psychology-driven style? Belief is the quiet force that changes everything. It is not wishful thinking or empty words. It is the unwavering trust that what you cannot see today will work out for your good tomorrow. Belief gives your heart courage when your mind is filled with doubt. It turns uncertainty into opportunity and transforms fear into strength. When you truly believe, you align your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions with hope, and that alignment creates a powerful momentum that worry can never break. Psychology shows that belief reshapes your brain. When you hold faith in something greater than your immediate fears, your mind begins to calm, stress decreases, focus improves, and resilience rises. Belief allows you to move forward even when the path is unclear. It teaches your mind to look for solutions instead of rehearsing failure. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. And every setback becomes temporary because belief convinces you that growth is always possible. Think about moments in your life when you faced what felt impossible, yet you somehow endured. Those moments were fueled by belief. You may not have understood how you would succeed, but you trusted enough to take the next step anyway. That trust carried you forward, and it can do so again. Belief does not eliminate fear, but it diminishes its control over you. It allows you to act with courage, even when doubt whispers in your ear. Belief is not passive. It demands action. It requires choosing to trust when logic says otherwise, choosing hope when your surroundings feel hopeless, and choosing courage when fear is loudest. It transforms your inner world and ultimately the life you create. When you embrace belief, your mind no longer wanders into worst-case scenarios. Your heart no longer carries the heavy weight of what might go wrong. Instead, your spirit rises, and you begin to experience the peace, strength, and freedom that come from knowing that you are guided, supported, and capable of facing whatever comes. Do you want me to continue with the next section on the battle between fear and faith, written in the same deep motivational and psychologically driven style?